Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallam ala nabina Muhammad. My respected elders, my brothers, and those who are listening at home, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to gather here. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. It is a great favor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing us to gather here in His mosque, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can we all say Alhamdulillah? Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. We couldn't be anyway. We could have been somewhere where it's not useful. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Rabbul Izzah, allowed us to be His guest. Subhanallah. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allow us to take something tonight from the talk and the panel discussion, inshallah, so that we can practice in our life. That will be my biggest request for you. We all go to different talk, different circle, but I don't see any changes of the Ummah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because we just attend. Tonight, at least we will try to take one item from the talk. You don't have to take everything, so that from tomorrow you practice. And then next week when you come, or next day you go to another program, you take something else. And then you take something else. And then slowly, inshallah, you will see the difference. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He allow us to practice what we hear, inshallah. We have amazing lined up today. Our own khatib, our Sheikh Ashikur Rahman will be delivering his talk, and then our own Sheikh Fahimul is also here. Then we'll have panel discussion, then we'll have a break, and then Sheikh Abdul Rahmadani will come, and then we'll do Qiyamul Layl. If you haven't done your tahajjud, your witir, you can pray collectively, inshallah, we'll do that. It's optional. You can stay or you don't have to stay. It's up to you. But we'll do it together, inshallah. If I may now ask our Khatib Sahib to come forward, inshallah. Are you standing here? Or?
I'm just going to use this microphone for now, and then inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan, Ustad Khairul Shaheed. Inshallah, I was asked to recite the Quran, but I'm going to inshallah nominate one of our beloved students and one of our young artists, one young reciters from our Tartil class on Fridays, our own Safwan ibn Khairul Shaheed. Please come recite some Quran. Tafaddal.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل لرأيته خاشعا متصدعا من خشية الله وتلك الأمثال نضربها للناس لعلهم يتفكرون هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو عالم الغيب والشهادة هو الرحمن الرحيم هو الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الملك القدوس السلام المؤمن المهيمن العزيز الجبار المتكبر سبحان الله عما يشركون هو الله الخالق البارئ المصور له الأسماء الحسنى يسبح له ما في السماوات والأرض وهو العزيز الحكيم
Jazakumullah khairan, Safwan, for that beautiful recitation. I think he was today being a bit conservative, conserving his energy, mashallah, for the later part of the night, inshallah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa afdalu salatu wa atimmu taslima ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad ibn Abdillahi wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'een. اللهم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي رب زدني علما رب يسر ولا تعسر وتمم بالخير ثم أما بعد والحمد لله. Once again, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Respected brothers and sisters present here tonight in Darul Ummah, to participate in this Qiyamul Layl event organized by Dawatul Islam English Department, alhamdulillah, brought to you and broadcasted to you from here, Darul Mashhad, alhamdulillah. To you all once again, marhaban bikum jami'an, welcome to you all, and especially to those who are also joining us online, alhamdulillah. Our online platform, YouTube live stream, is active even right now. If you go to Darul Ummah YouTube channel, you'll find on the live section that we are live right now, and we have about 15 or so people watching us live. If you share that, if you take a moment to share that with your friends and family, for those who couldn't join us today, they can also benefit from home or wherever they are. If you can, inshallah, take a minute now. If this is the one time the Imam will ask you to use your phone. Normally the Imam is saying, put your phone away, turn it off. But now we'll say, can you use your phone and go to the link, and inshallah you'll find the links on some of the groups, and share it to your friends and family and put it on your status, so that inshallah we can have maximum reach for this auspicious evening and this event, inshallah azza wa jal. I have been asked to speak about two current modern challenges faced by the Muslim community. Two modern challenges, modern day challenges that we face as an ummah, as a community, and how we can, as Muslims, as people who care about ethics and morals, about values, those who stand by principles, those who have been guided and have been recipients of the guidance from Allah with divine revelation, what is our response to those challenges? And from these two challenges, the first and foremost I want to address is the challenge of the net, the internet. And this is indeed, as you know, is a very, very great challenge. It's a huge, huge challenge. It's a huge hurdle. It's a phenomenon that maybe a lot of parents or even grandparents or parents who are even not speaking English so much, or even if they speak English, maybe not so aware of its challenges, its benefits, its harms. And yet this internet, of course, as you know, is everywhere. Right now even we are benefiting from the internet, and all of us, our phones are based upon and connected to the internet. But it is very important that as parents, as children, as young adults, we know, we are aware of the harms and the benefits and the dangers also of the cyber world, of the online world. As you know, the internet wasn't around for too long. It's been, over the past 20, 30 years, it's really taken a very fast turn, and now it's in every home, in every device, every pocket. From the benefits of this internet, as you know, it's an amazing access to information and data. You have access to knowledge of all type. You just search it and the results will come up, and it's the best solution for a lot of researchers, for students who are studying their GCSE, their A-levels, for them to research into a history document or into a history channel, history website, into modern issues, scientific issues. Of course, one of the most commonly used websites is also the Wikipedia, although it's not always the most accurate, but it's the most commonly used. And then on top of the internet, your search engines like Google, you have also your social media platforms. You have your Facebook and your Instagram, you have your TikTok, and then there are so many that I'm not even in touch with. My younger nephews and nieces, they tell me about. There's Twitch, there's Discord, and the list goes on. There are so many websites and social media platforms that are being used by our young children as they grow up. And to be honest, the reality is that it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. You can't, it's almost impossible for someone to say, unless you want to be of those who go and confine themselves into a place which is completely, off the radar, if you like, living in a jungle, which is not realistic, nor is it what Islam teaches us to do. Our Islam is a pragmatic, it's a comprehensive solution for every single time and every single place. So yes, there are solutions and answers to the challenges that we face for the online world in Islam. And that is because, as we've said at the beginning, our religion is a religion of principles, of values, of morals, of ethics. There are rules which are applicable. For example, a very basic one. We know that a common and a very fundamental principle in our religion is something called honesty and not being deceitful, not cheating. I actually saw a video in which on the news, they were saying that ministers are being urged to support schools and head teachers on how to face up to the challenge of a new AI-supported website or a platform or a software called ChatGPT. If you don't know about that, it's actually a very serious issue now. ChatGPT is so intelligent. It's artificial intelligence. It's basically cyber intelligence, if you like. Whatever you search. Now, if I now go on Google and say, what is a mosque? It will give me a mosque is a place where, for example, Muslims go to worship. Now with ChatGPT, you can ask this software to develop for you an entire essay. You can ask it to deliver for you an entire khutbah. I saw one sheikh, he put up on his Twitter saying that someone searched saying, please write me a khutbah like this sheikh, and mentioned the sheikh's name. And the ChatGPT was so aware of what kind of vocabulary, what kind of style, what kind of tone this mentioned sheikh uses, it was able to write up and script an entire khutbah using the same kind of words, language, phrases that sheikh would use, and then it's like it's exactly the same person. Now this is a challenge, and now for GCSE students, for A-level students, they can literally go on there and say, write me an essay on, for example, Shakespeare. Or, write me an essay on, Othello or something like that. Any sort of Shakespearean text or a play. And he would come up with a very comprehensive, very human-like. It's like a human being, an actual person wrote it. So these are some of the challenges. But if, say, for example, me being a Muslim of principles and values, I will see that immediately, even though it's very lucrative, seems very, attractive for me to just easily go down that route, if you remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, in which he said, "Man ghashana falaysa minna," whomsoever cheats us is not among us. And that cheating and khida' is not permitted in Islam. And for me to cheat, doesn't matter which platform, whether it is traditionally they would be, for example, writing on their palms and writing on their this and that and small pieces of papers. But now you have, for example, ChatGPT now, or any other website. If you are cheating, if you are plagiarizing, if you are not doing the work yourself, you will know Islamically as a Muslim who stands by his or her morals and values and ethics and principles, this is not allowed and this is haram. So that's what I'm trying to say, that even though we face a significant challenge, a very, very huge challenge with the internet world, and yet there are solutions for it. And this is actually part of a longer workshop, a longer discussion. But my small message to all of us here is that every single parent, every single person who lives in this modern world must be aware of, must have studied, must have taken a course, must have listened to lectures about the harms and the benefits of the cyber world, of the online world. There are so many harms, like cheating, like cyber bullying, like phishing, like scamming, like like grooming, and many, many others. And of course, you got the inappropriate websites of all sorts. Even in your social media platforms like TikTok, it's actually, these platforms work on an algorithm. So whatever a person has an interest in will be feeding them more of it. So if, say, for example, if one of your children accidentally ends up on a video where there is inappropriate content because you can't actually choose a category, you're scrolling, and something inappropriate may come up. Now, if by seeing that, the natural instinct, of course, close it, exit the application, but if now the child stays there for a number of minutes, then their feed on their TikTok or on their Instagram will provide more of that. So they are accidentally falling into the trap of shaitan, and of course of the scammers, and of course of the negative and the disgusting stuff and the content out there. In fact, I heard that one of the managers, or if not the CEO of TikTok, he himself doesn't allow his children to use the platform TikTok because it's very dangerous. And I also heard that the TikTok application, even though it's developed by China, in China the algorithm and the software encourages the children to watch educational content, science experiments, how to develop themselves in education. The algorithm is pushing, it knows who the user is, because when you sign up, you put your name in, you put your date of birth in, and so it knows your age. So now the software and the platform knows that we have, say for example, 50 million users who are under the age of 18, between the age of 16 and 18. If the software wants, it can push towards them content which is related to them about education, pushing them towards experimentation in terms of science, and so on, about academia. And supposedly in China, that's what it pushes. But in the Western world, it's more inappropriate content. And a lot of children are falling a victim to this, and it's very absolutely fundamental that as parents and as people of this community, of this ummah, of this time, that we are aware of the harms and the benefits of the online world, of the cyber world, and how to also face up to these challenges. For example, a very basic piece of advice that a lot of experts give is that if your child is using an online device, a computer, a laptop, a desktop, whatever it is, that they should have time limits, of course, but also they should be using that device in a public space. So in the sitting room, in the living room, in the dining room, where there is a constant access of people coming in and out, and there is not complete privacy, because when there is privacy, as you know, even between adults, if there are two inappropriate, not غير mahram people in one room, then shaitan is the thalith, is the third. Now if it's a child and the shaitan is trying to deviate them and trying to confuse them and lead them astray, then the online world, you have everything that one could possibly imagine. We have to be very careful about that. Make dua that Allah gives us the ability to navigate this big fitna. It's a big fitna, and take the benefits of it. Because of course, if someone wants to take the benefit from it, they have huge amount of access to information. Someone can become a scholar, really. The amount of books out there, the PDFs out there, if someone really used the platform, the internet, for seeking knowledge, they could become a great alim. They could join, for example, an online-based alimiya platform, and then use ebooks and PDFs and other avenues of contacting scholars and mashayikh, maybe through Twitter and so on. They have so many benefits. But equally, in fact, even more, much more, is the negative side. So my brief suggestion is, all of us, let's do some research into this, study into this, watch videos about it, watch lectures about it, because most parents, the reality is, a lot of our parents, they don't know how to speak English yet properly. And for those who know how to speak English, they're very busy working, they have very difficult and busy schedules, but you have to make time for this, because who knows the story of the Pied Piper? The story of the Pied Piper is there were so many rats and mice in the town, and they invited this man who was the piper with flute. They couldn't get rid of the rats at all. So the rats and the problem are in every single house. Then they invite a distraction maker, a music maker, comes with the flute, and the Pied Piper is blowing on the flute, and somehow the rats and the mice start following the Pied Piper, and he makes them leave the town and falls them behind, or makes them fall behind a cliff. So he comes back and he says, "Where's my money?" They say, "Go along, no money for you." So then now he gets his flute out, and now he's doing a different tune. This time he's attracting to the children. And now instead of the mice now, the children start to follow him. And then the children start to follow him all the way out of town, and then all of the children are also gone. Now, the reason why this is applicable is, what do we do? What do parents, mothers and fathers do? You say, the child is crying too much, give him the tablet. You do that yourself. You bring the Pied Piper in. You say, bring me entertainment. Give me all this and give me all that. Give me all of these YouTube channels. You say, and then we make them addicted to watching, otherwise they won't eat. I've seen this myself. We say, we give them we're very kind to them. My son, I love him so much. And some parents are so silly. I love my son so much. He's 10, I'm going to buy him a phone. What are you thinking? This is crazy. This is unimaginable. It's very, very, very crazy. This is a very, very wrong decision. You see, so a lot of the times parents invite and facilitate and introduce the children to the Pied Piper, to the online world, and then it's too late, you can't control. So let's not let's not be like those who fell into the fitna of the Pied Piper, and now it's of course the internet we're talking about. And let's be intelligent. Let's know what are the limits, what are the good websites, good platforms, good alternatives, and encourage that, inshallah. The next challenge, which of course time is limited, inshallah, but I will just make a small indication towards, inshallah, is there are a lot of ideologies which are being very, very ferociously pushed into all platforms, all educational systems, entertainment. There is in fact a commitment from the likes of Netflix and Disney and Hollywood and others to propagate and promote particular ideologies, particular lifestyles which is not in accordance to Islam. Again, we can say this is part of the online world, but even if someone is watching an offline movie, for example, or reading an offline book, you will find a lot of these ideologies, and there are many, I can't mention all of them, but there are a lot of ideologies which are out there which do not conform to our religious Islamic family values. Allah made us, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى. Allah is saying, we have made you man and woman. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا يَا أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمُ الَّذِي خَلَقَكُم مِّن نَّفْسٍ وَاحِدَةٍ وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهَا. We believe that Allah has specified for us our genders. Allah has made a man, a woman, a woman. To the phrase is to smash heteronormativity. There's a phrase that's commonly used. To smash and to destroy heteronormativity. You can understand that yourself. Okay? There's a lot of children here, I don't need to explain it to you, but if you're a parent, you should understand what I'm talking about. We have to be very, very careful and very alert and aware about this. Just like the online world is a big fitna, this is a fitna that's gonna come like amwad. It's gonna be like waves after waves. They're not going to stop. The people are behind, they are very rich, very influential, very expert in what they do, and they will not stop. The only way we can face up to the challenge is that we prepare ourselves, we equip ourselves with knowledge, we equip ourselves with any way possible, any legal means that we can take by. We should become very alert. In the books that they read, in the movies that they watch, in the CBBS and all of these different, every single one of these platforms are now, of course, they're influenced, and the lobbying parties behind these ideologies are very powerful, I say. They have hundreds of people working, paid staff, trying to lobby government, lobbying the Department of Education, lobbying your entertainment world, and so on. So this is something to be very careful about. I advise you to seek knowledge about this and to be very alert about it. Think about how you're going to preserve yourself and your family and your children from these kind of fitan. مَا ظَهَرَ مِنْهَا وَمَا بَطَنَ. May Allah preserve us all, give us all hidayah, keep us all steadfast, and make us of those who are leaving behind a legacy and a progeny who are on millat Ibrahim Hanifa, of tawheed, of iman, of taqwa, of obedience to Allah. And let's make dua like Sayyidina Ibrahim did, that Rabbana, he said, Rabbi ja'alni muqima as-salati wa min dhurriyyati. Oh Allah, make me someone establishes salah, and establishment of salah is the epitome of ibadah, is the first ibadah. And so, oh Allah, make me of those who do iqamat as-salah, wa min dhurriyyati, and also from my family. ربنا وتقبل دعاء سبحانك اللهم أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair, Imam Sahib, for your beautiful talk. We'll now invite our Sheikh Fahimul Alam for delivering his talk. I'm very grateful to Sheikh Fahimul Alam. Actually, he done all the hard work. He done the poster, he selected all the speakers and everything else. So we are very lucky to have Sheikh Fahimul Alam with us. He'll also be part of the panel discussion. So stay with us, inshallah. And after the panel discussion, we'll have a break, and then we'll do Qiyamul Layl. So we also have food for you. So mashallah, yes, we'll have food. Just before I pass it on to Sheikh Fahimul Alam, our Khatib Sahib did mention about Tartil class. I want to mention before I forget. Yesterday we had over 65 students here. Every Friday, our Khatib Sahib is doing Tartil class every Friday. If you are not aware of, or if you want to invite your friends and family, do so. It's for our next generation who is telling us how to read the Quran, teaching us. It's free. We don't charge. Darul don't charge any fees for Tartil class, and Khatib Sahib is giving his time. So please, if you are aware of, tell others. If you want not, join us from next Friday, inshallah. I'll pass it on to Sheikh Fahimul Alam.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله اللهم أكرمنا بنور الفهم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم وارزقنا حلاوة الإيمان وصدق الإخلاص في كل حال أما بعد. Respected chairperson and my dear brothers and sisters who are listening through online, and my youngsters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, our Imam has touched on very important sort of aspects of our current challenges, and I'm glad he has chosen those two. Although we gave him quite open option that any two, and he has chosen sort of good, two good discussions. And inshallah, you'll see from the discussions and the panel discussion that we're trying to make it slightly different rather than just kind of bringing in sort of Quranic and prophetic discussion, but rather trying to address the social challenges and then bring in the Quran and Hadith so that inshallah we can benefit from the divine guidance. Now that he has mentioned about internet, although my topic is you need 2 wings to fly. Do you all have your wings? Now we need 2 wings to fly. This is my topic, okay? But before I mention a few things about the topic, since Sheikh Ashik mentioned about the internet, so I will briefly mention, well, I agree with what he said, but I will add another point from a different angle, maybe slightly sort of from opposite angle, inshallah. But before that, I learned something new this week, about 2 days ago. And let me test you guys, like, are you familiar with those things? One of the countries is supposed to send some leopards, Abrahams, and challenges. Do you guys know these things? This is why I said, I learned something new this week. 2 days ago, or 3 days ago, there was a lot of discussion on LBC. And there is a kind of contention between Germany and USA and the European countries. Now, Germany is being pressurized to send their leopards to Ukraine. And Germany doesn't want to get involved or get into trouble with Russia. So they came up with something else. They said, okay, to the USA, you guys should send your Abrahams to Ukraine. And Britain already has sent their challenges. I've given you lots of clue now. I admitted at the beginning that I learned something new. So what is leopards, Abrahams, and challenges here? The senior brothers, of course, I'm sure you have picked up by now, but any younger ones? So apparently they are different types of tanks, the word tanks. So there are different types of tanks, And what I understood, again, I'm saying what I understood, that challenges is the top range. Abraham probably middle range, and leopard probably sort of lower range. Now, Britain has sent 12, I think, or 14 challenges, very advanced, sophisticated, and it has double, I think probably double the shooting ability or whatever, okay. But the problem is that, it can't cover the vast land. It's only 14. And German has like thousands of leopards, which can cover, but it's low range. And because German doesn't want to get in trouble with Russia, so they're bringing in USA that you guys send your Abrams, probably middle range, And the other ones are reluctant to send their Abrams, So, although it's a funny story, but from a different angle, they have the technology to build your challenges, your leopards or Abrams, whatever they mean by this, And they are now actually controlling the world. And they're actually fighting against, they are doing whatever they like. We don't have the technology to build advanced level leopards or advanced level Abrahams or advanced level challenges, Back to the internet point. One of our teachers was saying that the technology is advancing every day. And we can see that those of us who never had smartphones or even mobile phones, we lived in a different world. Then with the phones, now if you leave your house without the phone, you're back home straight away to collect your phone and smartphone and so forth and so forth. And then some of us used to use emails. I remember when we were studying in France, inside the library, we only had one slot in the week for half an hour. One slot in 1 week that we can access our emails, And now, of course, people don't even use emails. It's like gentlemen form of communication, People now use other quick, fast medium. So things are progressing. Now, he was saying that, maybe a day will come when they will be able to invent technology which can capture our voice. Because when we speak, the voice goes out and still in the air. So he was saying that, that very likely soon people will be able to invent technology which will capture the voice and then bring in the voice and play Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim to you instead of reading from the books. I capture the voice of the Prophet ﷺ and then present it to you so you can hear it and not read Sahih Bukhari and Muslim. Now, of course, this is a theory and yet to be materialized. But believe me, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, one day, a day may come that they will be able to actually invent technology which can capture the voices and goes out up in the air, captures selective voices. If they can do it through the phone, you're using the phone and speaking, in another part of the world, The second point I'm trying to make from this point is that, yes, technology is dangerous. Internet is dangerous, and I totally agree with that. But at the same time, if we can become the inventors, then we can have the control. When I say control, then we can manage it in a better way. All these things are like double-edged sword. How you use it, how you manage it, how you deliver anything. So because we don't have the control over Google, we don't have the control over Facebook, we don't have the control over Instagram, we don't have the control over all those different platforms. So therefore, we are just users, service users. We are not service providers. If we can invent, then we'll become the leaders. And then we can have the control to manage and take good things out of it and prevent bad things. And again, if we can invent it, then we can do that. So therefore, we also need to look at it from that angle, that if our youths, who will become the next inventors, don't think that Google and Facebook and this will stay for longer. Within our short period of time, we can see that things are moving fast, new things are coming. So therefore, we want our sons and daughters to become inventors of the next level of technology, so that, we can actually have better contribution. We can make positive contribution. Even inventing or producing those weapons, war weapons, again, because of the technology. And they have the technology, they produce it, and therefore they use it they sell the old ones to developing countries, and they use the new ones, So we also need to look at it from that angle, inshallah. Back to our topic now. We need two wings to fly. If anybody already has your wings with you, then you may not need to listen to this, because you've got your wings, so you can fly without, So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. That the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we can say the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah has sent to us, communicating with us what we should do in our life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in this verse that وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا, that His words, His message, His guidance is complete, is accomplished. And it's like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that it is accomplished with those two values, principles, which is صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا, sidq and adl. So therefore, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that if you want to follow the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what you and I need to do, we need to embrace those two qualities in our life. Sidq and adl. And I call them, sidq and adl are the two wings of us. It is exactly like two wings, that when you have two wings, you can fly. So when Allah says sidqan wa adla, sidq is quite straightforward. We all understand that to be sadiq, to be truthful, to be honest. So speaking truth, being honest, this is what Quran is telling us. And not only being honest and being truthful, but I would go one step beyond that and say that it is also transparency. It is transparency. So transparency, honesty, truthfulness, this is one pillar, one value, one principle, one wing that you and I, we need in our life to fly. And when I say transparency in relation to sidq and adl, so for example, those of you are young, you don't know what we are doing in this country. Those of us a little bit older, we know that we have come from Bangladesh. And we value the passport. We hold on to it, Shahid Bhai, isn't it? We value that and we hold on to it. Now, even if you go back home or if you go and live in Qatar or Dubai, wherever, you know, but you still hold on to it. And you would want to come back to this country again. One of the reasons why we come back, we value and we appreciate the life here, and of course there are other discussions coming with the panel discussion in relation to this society, is because of some, let's say, for example, if you look at the justice system of this country, if there is any legal case, and I don't want to talk much, I've got a solicitor in front of me, so I don't want to get into trouble with that, okay? Right, so the minimum we can say, at least for the domestic legal system, that there is some transparency. You can have a rough idea what is happening. In comparison, if you compare this with, let's say, developing countries, Muslim countries, you have no idea what is happening behind the closed doors. Even within the legal system, the justice system. And because of that, we prefer to live in this country. Yes, there are other good things and other bad things. Everything is full of everything, okay. So the sidq is one of the wings, one of the pillars, one of the values, one of the principles. The second aspect is sidqan wa adla, adl, to be adil. We name people adil or adil, okay, that to be fair, to be just. Now, these are two qualities, values, principles. I call them two wings. If you and I can embrace those two qualities, sidq and adl, in our life, then we have not leopards and Abrahams and challenges, but we have moral wings with which we can fly morally and physically across the world, and we can offer something good to the humanity. Now, acquiring those two wings, moral wings of sidq and adl, it is not that easy. And in fact, also just to kind of break down adl, often when we talk about adl, we talk about fairness, which is fair. Adl is fairness, justice. Adl also means finding the middle ground. Adl also means finding the middle ground. So in our life, we should approach, or we should sort of take the middle approach, middle path. In a different verse, Allah says, Ummah wasatiyya, that we are a balanced nation. Now, adl is to find middle ground. Now, how do you establish middle ground? How do you find the midpoint of anything? If you and I, if we want to establish the middle ground in our life, in our family life, in our collective life, in our social life, in our activities, in our everything, that to approach the middle approach, if we want to find middle point, middle path, then the first thing we need to do, we need to establish the both sides. You only can measure where the middle is when you know the other two sides. So if you find the two sides, then you can measure it and you come in the middle, you find the middle point, middle path, middle way. And this is why there's a very important principle in usul, that la ifrata wa la tafrit. In Islam, there is no ifrat and there is no tafrit. There is no excessiveness and there is no negligence. So we shouldn't take a negligent approach, neither should we take an excessive approach. Meaning that, with anything we should not become excessive, and with anything we shouldn't become negligent. So these are your two sort of sides. And then if you, from those both sides, if you walk at the same time, then you come to the middle ground. And that is adl. And this is adl. So you avoid excessiveness, la ifrata wa la tafrid, excessiveness, and you avoid negligence. Then you come to the middle ground. Now, my dear brothers, it is easier said than done. It's so easy to just mention those two values, those two qualities, those two principles, sidq and adl. I remember giving one talk quite some time ago that is my Islam okay? With a question mark. Is my Islam okay? I've got, full beard, tupi, Punjabi, pagri, everything dressed up, sisters, hijab, niqab, everything there. But my dealings are dodgy. My interactions are dodgy. My financial transactions are dodgy. I evade and I'm not straight with my interactions, my dealings, So it is so easy to talk about these things, but I'm talking about myself that I find it difficult to implement those two values in my life. And these are the essence of Islam as opposed to the appearance of Islam. It is so easy to put on your appearance. I actually got this just before the program, Also my hair is short, so just, cover it up, It just gives an appearance. But the essence of Islam is something else. It is those values that for you and me to become sadiq, for you and me to become adil in our individual interactions, in our collective interactions, in our family interactions, to kind of represent those values, and especially when it goes against me, it is going to be very difficult. And this is why if we want to dominate, if we want to guide the humanity in this Western society, just like the way you need leopard and so forth, okay, but we need that moral strength. The moral strength will enable us to win over people because those values and principles, people can see it. If you and I have them, people can see it. If we don't have them, people can see it. And therefore, we want people to see Islam, not hear Islam. That when we walk, that people see those values, sadiq and adil. And if we don't have those values, I said we need two wings to fly, and if we don't have them, we will collapse. As community, as nation, as civilization, we will collapse. So therefore, it is very important for us to try our best. It also requires good habit, good understanding, good companionship, good environment. So therefore, try to choose good people, good friends. Because not always just because you understand it or you come from a Muslim family and or a practicing family that you will become good people. So we need to have good understanding, we need to develop good habits, and all these things come from good companionship, good environment. And then we will see that, inshallah, with the help of understanding and habits and companionship, that we are able to fly. Now, this flying, you may not be able to see that you're actually flying, but on your mizan, balance scale of akhirah, you will see that this is enabling you to not just fly, but reach Jannah. Because also to go to Jannah, we need some sort of vehicle, isn't it? And so this is where we need those two wings. So inshallah, I'll conclude my sort of brief reminder to myself and to everyone with this last point, that I hope that even the younger ones, you also have understood that inshallah, as you grow older, try to acquire two wings. And those two wings are that you and I will become, we speak truth, we don't lie. And we are fair to people. See, fairness is so vivid that even the children, they can tell if you and I, if we don't have the fairness. Young girl or young boy will say, Abu, this is not fair. Straight away they will say it. They can see it. So fairness, it's not something that, people can see it. And this is why we have to be so careful that, that we actually we're able to embrace those qualities in our life. And then, inshallah, people can see as we walk on the streets. Jazakallah, thank you for listening. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم أجمعين ولجميع المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Mashallah, Shahid Bhai, we are keeping the time, we are maintaining time, we are keeping it short, so that inshallah we carry everyone, and they can take something away with them. Just chairs would be fine. Our panelists are also very kind, just tables would be fine, so chairs would be fine, inshallah. আপনি দুই দিয়ে ওটা এন্ড করিয়া ইউর সবাই ডাক দিল
Anyone got any questions for Sheikh Fahim?
Leave the questions for the panels, you know. Let them
Regarding your topic, for his topic. No? Okay. Jazakallah khair, Sheikh Fahim. Jazakallah khair to everyone else for staying behind. Inshallah, we'll have discussion, panel discussion, and then we'll have break, and then we'll do Qiyamul Layl, inshallah. If I can ask our Secretary Sahib Hussain Bhai to come forward, inshallah. Do you want to take it off? That's it, two.
I'm on time for my stuff. I need one more chair then.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers in Islam, inshallah, we'll start our panel discussion shortly. After the panel discussion, there will be some light refreshments, inshallah. So for our panel's discussion today, the topic is, are the UK civic ethics and values compatible with Islam? And our panel consists of 4 very distinguished guests. First of all, if I may request Ustad Faizul Islam to please come forward and take his seat. Then we have Ustad Shabbir Ahmad Kausar. If I can request you to come forward, please. Brother Zainul Abidin. And last but not least, Barrister Talha Ahmed. If you can please come forward and take your seat. So what we'll do to start with, we'll ask our panelists to give a short introduction on the topic. If I may request our panelists to take 2 minutes each, inshallah. And then we'll ask them a set of questions, and we'll also open it for you so you can contribute. You can ask your questions and any feedback that you have, inshallah. If I may ask our Ustad Fazul Islam to start, inshallah.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Dear Chairman of this program, distinguished panelists here on my left-hand side, and very dear audience, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'll take very short time, 2 to 3 minutes, in which I'll be outlining what we'll be sharing here, inshallah. Now, when we talk about British values and ethics, in short, we actually mean, and that is from Google, by the way, democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, and mutual respect and tolerance and diversity. And there are a few more as well. But at the same time, if you look into a different perspective, that what is the objective of the Deen of Allah, and you'll be seeing that it says protection of life, protection of property, protection of health, protection of religion, people way of life, and protection of dignity and human honor. Now, democracy, what is that? It is mainly about sharing our thoughts, leading the society based on our common understanding and common goods. Now, how do you achieve it? That is through different political, social, national, and social platforms. Like here, if we are to do anything, and if it is a matter of importance, we'll be discussing, sharing, and a decision will be made. Now, Islam says that protection of life and property is absolutely important. Protection of health is also very important. And these values are actually the same values. There is no contradiction at all. So when you talk about values, there are some set values that we all share. And when we talk about British values, actually these are not even British values. These are universal values. Islam, subhanallah, has set out so many other values, and I'll just name a few, like even table manner, how to eat, how to start, what to say before even eating, how to achieve secure our cleanliness, how to achieve hygiene, how to have transaction with people, and transparency. So we have very shared values within the religion, within the humanity, within the people, within British values. And there is no kind of contradiction, except a few that inshallah will be coming back later. Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Jazakumullah khairan, Ustad Fazul Islam, for your take. If I may request Barrister Talha Ahmed to give his input, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Can I ask those of you who are not sitting on a chair, move here? I mean, it feels like I'm speaking to an empty space when everybody is sitting on that side. Right, so the question is, are UK civic values and ethics compatible with Islam? The first question is, what is or what are the civic values and ethics? And who defines them? Those are the questions I'm sure we will address and explore. But it seems to me that what defines broadly, if you take a man on a Clapham bus, a common man on a Clapham bus, and ask him, what are the civic values and ethics of our country? You'll find many answers, but there will be some commonalities: respect, tolerance, fairness, justice, equality, honesty, integrity. They are not just compatible with Islam, they are an integral part of our faith, of who we are. And so, but I suppose the reason we put this topic is not really for that, is it? Because when we talk about equality, how does that translate in reality? What does equality mean? And I think the elephant in the room is that to what extent we stretch some of these principles. When you talk about justice, what measure do we use to decide what is just and what isn't just? But this application, if you like, the extent to which the definition of some of these principles extends, is a very fluid. No, my time hasn't finished. I started 49. So yeah, so 50. So these, the parameters of fairness, of justice, of equality, and how they imply, they are very fluid. And so I turn the question around and say, how are we going to take control of defining, championing, and establishing these principles in a way that is close to our understanding, our faith, and our ways of life? Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah khairan, Barrister Talha Ahmed, for your take, inshallah. So we'll move with Ustaz Shabir Ahmed Kausar.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh. Firstly, thank you for organizing this important panel discussion and the Qiyamul. Inshallah, we are looking forward to that. We have heard earlier the talks from Sheikh Fahim about this fairness, this adl, and also the what is the other one? Young ones, anyone remember 2 wings? To fly. What was the 2 things?
Kids portion has 2 wings.
Inshallah, 2 wings. Yeah, 2 wings. Inshallah. So one is sidq, means truthfulness, this honesty, and this fairness. In this Islamic principle, as Barrister Talha mentioned earlier, then Islamic principles is based on honesty, integrity. And whenever we read Quran, whenever Muslims, we always see that Allah rewards the honesty. Allah will reward honest people. Allah will reward truthfulness. And Allah will punish those who are oppressors. So Islam is based on all these things which makes the world successful. And even if you see in this society, there is 7 principles they ask all the public servants, whether the police, or the doctors, or the solicitors, or whoever working in public office. Like us, if you are in community and everywhere, they have 7 principles. And one of them is selflessness. Then when we are in the public office, we must not take for my own benefit, but it has to be public interest. And this is absolutely essential part of Muslims. So you cannot cheat. You cannot take money from the treasury. And many other things are there. We'll come back. I'm sure our General Bhai will come back to all these 7 points. Last thing I would say, even now we see that unless we are truthful, unless we are honest, unless we have justice in the society, we cannot stand for anything. Even though it is wrong for anyone to drive or sit in the car without seatbelt. We saw that our Prime Minister has been fined. It is a rare example in the world. Even we know that Prince Philip, when he was alive, when he drove in the state, his license was taken away because he was driving wrong way. Thank you. Jazakallah khair.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If you're in a panel ever, did you see the way I was given second seat? I came here. So at least they get to answer the question, and then I have the easy job. So that's a strategy you can learn from. I agree with everything that everyone has said, but 2 points I just wanted to. When I came to the masjid today, one of the reflection was, and it's a bit annoying, that you have shoe racks and most of the shoes are on the floor. And just a simple example in terms of we're talking about manners that Fazul Bhai talked about. How do we implement everything that you're going to learn today? And Shahid Bhai said at the beginning, let's do one thing. Boys, you watched Karate Kid, the film. You know when it is like wash the car, and then he says paint the fence. The whole point of doing the basic is eventually he goes on to become a world champion or tournament champion, yeah? So for all the adults and for all the children, if we're not prepared to put the shoes on the shoe rack, how are we going to take Islam out there? How are we going to do justice? How are we going to take the universal values that we're talking about, both in terms of Islamic values as well as modern values, British values? Just think about it. So subhanAllah, help the most today. If you don't learn about anything, just try and put your shoes there. And if you put your shoes back, inshallah, other things you will become expert at. That's the whole point. If you don't get the basics right in life, then we won't progress anywhere. It'd be easy to cheat, what Sheikh Fahim talked about. It'll be easy, because you're not even fulfilling the basics. I work for a local council. Shabir Bhai works for a council. You wouldn't know that, but today you can go and check online. Every local authority has to publish anything. Wait for a time, and we've got enough time. Every local authority has to publish for transparency everything that anyone spends over £500. Now the whole point they did that was so when you spend the money, you're conscious that it's a public document. Anyone can go on a website and check what you have spent on where, and then they could go on the media, or they could complain to the council to say you've spent £500 on washing powder. Not exactly value for money for council tax. But please put your shoes on the rack. Sorry.
It seems like our panelists are very expert panelists today, so I'll have to control the timing quite strictly. Anyway, so what we will do, inshallah, we have till 9:30 for these panel discussions. So for some of the questions, inshallah, we'll listen to all of our panels. For some other questions, what we'll do, we'll get one of them to talk, and then other panelists can contribute if they have, just so, we can get our audience to contribute, inshallah. So the first question, we'll start with Brother Jainul Abidin, inshallah. So Muslims are seen as a minority, with Islam being a backward religion in this society. So what perception do the panels, what ideas do the panels have for the audience? What can we do to make ourselves as an asset to the society, and in the same time, how can we explain to the wider society that Islam is a beautiful religion, and it does, cover all aspects of life?
Jazakallah. I was thinking the questions were going to come from the audience, but obviously the presenters got some other ideas. But I think one of the simple things that all of us can do, if you think about in the past week, have you met anyone and you thought, subhanallah, this is an amazing person? Have you met anyone? Yeah? So learn from them. What did they do to you that made you feel they're an amazing person? And that's what we need to do. So when we meet someone, the way our manners are, the way we greet people, the way we talk to people. I'll tell you, subhanallah, the other day I got a call from a faith leader from a church. Subhanallah, I was so impressed by his interaction with me. I'm not that famous. A father from a local church called the council about a property. But the way he spoke to me, I wanted to give him whatever he wanted. I wanted to meet him. And then I said to him, I'm involved in the local masjid. And Rangu, he's the church around the Darul Magosbrook at bottom of the road. But the example I'm giving you is, you could see he has faith in him. You could see he's a leader, the way he approached it, the way he talked with me. And that's what all of us have to do, even if we're a minority. The minority means that your perception in terms of how we interact with whoever we come across, Muslims, non-Muslims, even Muslims. That's the only way we're going to progress. I have to keep it simple, otherwise, and put the shoes back on the rack. That's going to be my line for today.
Inshallah, we'll hear from Ustad Shabir Ahmed Kausar on this question, inshallah. Let's finish with this one, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Thank you. I see that obviously one of the phrases I learned in Bangladesh when I was young kid says, to change the world, you have to change yourself first. If you can't change yourself, you cannot change the world. And in here, and why do you need to change ourselves? Because that we want to be successful in this world and in the hereafter. And if you are a good role model, then everyone would admire you. At workplace, I know Jonul Bhai, he is a role model. I know many other brothers. If you do work well, if you are a good student, if you are a best student, then all the teachers would love you because they enjoy the teaching. So if you want to be good, if you want to change the perception, then we need to follow these principles. Then we need to be good Muslims. And good Muslims meaning one first thing is that Allah is mentioning that always those who fear Allah. But there is a special dua in Hadith. Prophet ﷺ tells us that, "Oh Allah, grant me to help me to fear you in private and in public." If you fear Allah, what would you do? You would be just. You would be good. You will not cheat. You will respect others. Once you have that quality, privately and publicly, whether it is there is a CCTV or not, whether it is recorded or not, or whether it is people sees you or not, then and only then, inshallah, we can do. But to change the world, you don't need many things. Even one person can change the world. You might say how? And our Jonul Bhai has one booklet, he's got called Big Idea. So even if you're small, one person, if you have a big idea, even say Ustaz mentioned by Sheikh Google or all these IT thoughts or anything, and once they create it, they become millionaires in this world. But if you do Islamic ideas, which is any knowledge or any sadaqah jariyah, it's eternal. You'll get reward even if you leave this world. Even just imagine this mosque. Whoever started this mosque, the amount of reward he's getting every day is amazing. And I'm sure every single one of you can find a way, any ideas. But last thing I would say, that when you think about ideas, we must not be selfish. It is not just for you or for me or more for my family or my just own community, only for Muslim. No, you have to do it for the humanity. Because once you take the leadership of everyone, then not only you are protected, you can serve the world. But if you just think of, okay, just for myself, only for the Muslim community, only for the Muslim students in the university, or only Muslims in the community, you cannot serve everybody. Because still you are self-centered. Like cost of living, affecting not just Muslims, everyone. So we need to take the leadership. I'm sure the mosque is doing something. I know the Darul Magosbrook is doing something. Many other mosques are doing something. Eastern Mosque is doing a great job as well in this community. So many other mosques. So once we take this role of service, inshallah, not only we will be seen as a contributor, but we will be taking the lead, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
I take issue with the question itself. Anybody who thinks Islam is a backward religion are ignorant, pure and simple. And any Muslim who struggles to respond to this perception is also an ignorant. And I tell you why. Everything that Europe stands on and everything that it holds high as evidence of being the most advanced and civilized society, each one of it stands on the contributions of Muslims in Europe, contribution of European Muslims in Europe. So one of the things I would say, agreeing with everything that's been said, is that we must learn history. We must have a sense of history. If we don't know, we can't respond. Now, fact is, some people do see Islam as a problem. I won't say necessarily backward, but they do see Islam as a problem and as the other. Yes, but here is an example I'll give you. I was in Seville in Spain recently. And one of the main attractions is Alcazar, the palace that the Christian king built after he conquered Seville from Muslims. What is interesting is that this palace was built on top of a Muslim palace to mark the triumph of Christianity and the end of Islam in Spain. But after over 1,000 years, you look at this palace, everything in it symbolizes Islam, art, architecture, etc. And yet here is a king who was building it as a triumph over Islam. Why did he go for it? Because when he wanted to build something magnificent, at that time, only Muslim architects could build something really magnificent. So it was the excellence, being ahead of your time. So if we really want to turn the tide, we have to seek excellence. And in fact, one aspect of our faith is ihsan, which is seeking perfection, seeking excellence. So I would say that we should relentlessly pursue excellence in everything we do. And yes, it does begin with the basics, including putting the shoes on the rack. Jazakumullah.
Jazakumullah khair. I thought I would be talking about putting shoes on the rack, but it is a bit later. Here in this audience, subhanallah, I know somebody, a young man who is the best in his class, alhamdulillah. Now, when you are the best in the class, it means that you have done your homework, you have been following the lectures of your teachers, and your teachers have a perception of you that you are the best. Now, another example that I'd like to give, that some time ago somebody came to my house to get some work done. And he told me, Faizul, and by the way that's my name, he said, Faizul, it is not about majority or minority. It is about the quality of your work. Now, whoever comes to your house to get the work done, and if he or she does it in the best of the quality, you would not think of his or color. You would be thinking of the quality. So one of the ways that you and I need to see ourselves, that it is not necessarily the color of us. It is whether we are able to produce quality everywhere. So when we are able to produce quality, people will value us. Now that student I'm talking about here, he knows who he is here. Now, when you become the top in the class, I'm not saying that everybody can. It is not practically possible. But if you are good at something, and if you achieve excellence, then you have become a role model. If you are good at playing football, and if you are very good at that, if you achieve a level, then you are becoming a role model. So basically what we are saying here, including ourselves, that in our action, in our word, in our deed, we have to try our best to be the best. We might not be the best, maybe it will not be possible, but as long as we keep trying, eventually we'll reach there. And by the way, if you see you'll put your shoes on the rack, but if you see there are other shoes, then don't be disappointed with these people. Pray for them. Eventually, inshallah, they will start doing it as well. Thank you.
Jazakumullah khairan, all our panelists for the take, inshallah. So we'll take some questions from the audience, inshallah. Who wants to go first from the audience? Any questions? Okay, any questions from the audience?
If you want to be the best, you need to learn to ask questions.
Jashim bhai, inshallah.
Just a couple of questions, if I may. I guess the first would be, interesting topic, is British value universal? In a sense, many of the politicians, they talk about British values being quite universal. What's the view, panel's view on that? And secondly, the concept of UK ethics and the British values, is there any aspect of these values which is in conflict with Islam?
Okay, Jazakumullah khairan, Joshim bhai. And I will probably add one more question to facilitate this conversation. Very recently we have seen during the World Cup, our ethics and values were used as a weapon against us. So how do we challenge these double standard? How do we challenge this narrative? So maybe we'll start with Brother Shabbir Kausar, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. First thing, hypocrisy or double standard is always wrong. Even though those who say it, they know it is wrong. So we don't need to defend them. As long as we are honest, we do not beat the double standard, then it is an issue. For example, we say we need Muslims to be honest, but if we portray in business dishonesty, if we portray in tax returns dishonesty, if we do so many other things, we don't do our job right, then it is a problem, because we say one thing and do another thing. In reality, double standards, those who say it, they do it, they cannot hide it. So if they say they are unfair, they just pick on Muslims that they are doing bad things. But when they do it, they do also bad things. But again, to the double bad things, that doesn't make it right either. So as long as we are doing right thing, as long as we are doing it for the sake of Allah, because we have a life after, death. They don't have it. And if someone is doing bad thing, they'll be punished in this world and in the hereafter. So we have to work always, as I said earlier, that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always that Allah help us or to fear you in private and in public life. So that is even in British principles, as I say, civil servants, public servants, and this is applicable to everyone, that when you hold office, when you do make decisions, we need to be fair and we need to be accountable. We need to make this transparent. And if we do it, okay, I do it in hiding, I'm doing unfairly, then people may not see it, but Allah is witness and He will punish us in this world and in the hereafter. So I would say again and again that what all these values they have, and as Barrister Talha mentioned, they are based on Islamic principles. And this is universal, most of it. Only contradiction could be, as brother was saying, when they come in about faith values, when they say humanity, if they come to the real fairness, integrity, honesty, then Allah's justice is always best in this world and the hereafter. When a human being comes in to alter what is right and what is wrong, then they do it for their own personal interest. But again, when you come to universal values, they need to be fair for everyone, then that is fair for everyone. And if you see in the time of Prophet ﷺ, even the non-Muslims, even the Christian, even the Jews, even if they make a complaint, then that was dealt with justly. Their witness as a Muslim, they are not taken as this way. Even I remember when I was working in my job, one of the person asked me, I'm a Muslim, why can you not give me a house? Well, that was the straight question. And I told them, because told them, look, are you sure you were asking me to help you? He said, yes. Then I told him, because you mentioned about Islam says that I need to be fair. So you need to apply in the right way. I cannot help you unfairly. But I can understand you were asking me to favor you. But my faith, your faith, says that I cannot be unfair. So I can't really help you in this way, but I can advise you do this and that, and you will be treated fairly. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakumullah khairan, Shabir bhai. Inshallah, we'll move with Barrister Talha Ahmed on this one.
I don't like answering questions where the question itself is not clear. If you think there are aspects of British values which perhaps not universal, you need to say, are these aspects of the values universal? So I don't really know which one you're talking about. As I said before, there are some aspects. So take justice, for example. British justice system, I think, is an example for the rest of the world. And yet, as somebody who make his living out of this system, I can write books after books outlining where it fails, it is defective. Similarly, equality, another one. I think that's what you are hinting at, but not quite spelling out. When we talk about equality, we are applying it in a way that some of it doesn't sit well with our faith. Take, for example, the issue of LGBT and so forth. So there are challenges, but I think the fundamental idea of justice, of fairness, of equality, of transparency, I think these are universal and will remain universal. But with time, as I said, it will change. I think the challenge for us, as I said, we have to take ownership of these discussions and debates and find persuasive ways of shaping these values in a way that sits more comfortably with our own values. It's not easy, but Islam, everywhere that Islam spread, those who spread Islam, the message of Islam, they didn't do an easy job. They did a very hard job. I think we want quick fixes, and that's where we sometimes perhaps get too frustrated.
I think the question, if you ask, is always right. Barrister might think otherwise. But the point is, like you've got universal values, British values, but then you've got human beings making policy in terms of how they apply those values. And that's where sometimes the contradiction comes, because they ideologically are different. So Sheikh Fahim talked about balance. And sometimes when politicians are making decisions, they are either leftist or they're right wing or they're center. So depend on their ideological background, they will decide how they apply those values. And some of it, in a generic sense, might be fair. Some of it might be the pushing the boundaries of faith. But I suppose the challenge for us is, if you want to make change, then you become the Prime Minister and you apply your ideological and faith-based approach. That's what you need to do. There's no point fighting power when you're not in a level playing field. Get to that level playing field. The other bit of it is, we talk about LGBT and other elements of it, but if we believe in marriage, get married. How many of us are promoting marriage in our masjids? So say a 25-year-old comes through the door now and says to the imam, I want to get married. Has the imam got a list of brides ready for him? Or has anyone got any brides ready? But that's the point, innit? Let us take our values, our ideologies, our faith, and let us be passionate and let us push that agenda, because that's what we believe in. That's what's important to us. Joshim, I'm sure he's going to come back on it.
No, you're right. I just wanted to the brother asked about clarifying, so just if I may, I guess he was referring, I just Googled this, the four fundamental British values: democracy, rule of law, respect, tolerance, and individual liberty. I guess a lot of the discussion, alhamdulillah, which is about being truthful. The Sheikh Fahim spoke about, being truthful and in terms of respect. I guess I don't think anyone would disagree, but I think when it goes back to, John mentioned about the ideological understanding of British values, and when the likes of Tony Beck came and said that these are universal values, and I don't think that, let's put the Islamic world aside, I don't think Africa as a whole would not necessarily agree, because the concept of polygamy in Africa is there, which is something that goes
But how does polygamy apply here?
The point is, if we're going to be talking about compatibility, and if that's what the panelists are arguing, is it absolute? And I think if it isn't, I think we should have some balanced discussion around, that there are issues that we do have, and in terms of not everyone can go and become Prime Minister of this country, and it's very unlikely people like us will ever get there, but who knows?
Well, what about Sadiq Khan? Sadiq Khan is mayor. Would you say 5 years ago or 10 years ago you would have a mayor of London who would be Muslim?
Being Muslim and being Prime Minister,
That's
you look at...
Okay, Janul bhai, if I may take over, inshallah. So we'll move on from this discussion, inshallah. Okay, I want to see Who is under 25 and looking for a bride? Anyone? So, no, but I'm sure you keep a list.
My son's here, but he's not going to declare it.
Inshallah, we'll find you
Many
one.
witnesses here.
Inshallah, we'll find.
Leave the house for a bit. So you might,
Okay. So, who wants to be the next to ask a question? Ask a question for our panelists? Yes.
We said to learn about history, but all the history is like written by the victors, so it's, a lot of it is like whitewashed. It's like made up to like certain people's ideology. So where can one learn about true history?
Okay, right. So,
Okay, as long as you think the question is valid, I'll pass it to you, or I'll have to pass it, because you have a problem with every single question we ask, and I'll have to control it now.
well, I think if you have right to question me, I have right to question your question. But going back to your question, I think it's a really interesting point, interesting question. But I think the point is this: Allah has blessed us with intelligence, and when you read something, you don't have to believe that everything written in that book or in that article is correct. Similarly, it is not true that every single history written by Victor is necessarily flawed and inaccurate. There would be an element of exaggeration. There will be an element of, if you like, ideological validation. But there are history written by a whole range of people. If you take even Islamic history, it's true, some of our work is not accessible, but there are work that are written from different perspectives, different aspects, and by people of different background. But we have to make the most of what we have. There's no point agonizing over what is not there, right? I don't know, I can't really add any more than that.
Barrister Talha Ahmed, Shabib, do you want to add anything, or General Bhai? Inshallah. Okay, who wants to be the next to ask a question? I can see one of our panelists, needed some rest. If I may request him to come back. Okay, inshallah. Okay, Brother Manzoor, go on, inshallah.
Linking back to the previous question about ethics and stuff. Recently, I think it's Church of England talking about LGBTQ marriage in church, because it's not allowed. They're talking about blessing. But they're openly discussing about these issues. And it is an issue about like equality too. We have Muslim imams and Muslims who find it very difficult to engage in those kind of discussions. We talk about equality when we go to any jobs, anywhere. But when these questions comes in, we find the Muslims find very difficult to engage with those kind of discussions, even from the mosque, the imams, and those on those level of discussions. How can we engage on those kind of discussions and equality maintain at the same time we maintain our faith and values? How can we engage with them and so that we can come out as clear as possible while we're maintaining the ethics, values, equalities at the same time we're maintaining our own values?
Okay. Jazakumullah khairan. Who wants to go for this? Okay, General Bhai. 2 minutes for you, inshallah.
No, I'm not going to take 2 minutes. I've answered the question before. But I suppose the point I'm trying to make is, if you tell people what your faith is, what your values are, who you are as an individual, that's a starting point. If you're not prepared to talk about your faith, your religion, you're married, you got 3 kids, or you're not married, you're looking for a wife, have they got anyone, in case you're under 25. But whatever it is, unless you're prepared to do your bit, how will you find anything out in terms of promoting Islam and promoting in terms of who you are? People privately in their life, what they do, we need to respect that. The other thing is sometimes we get so obsessed about hate and we're taught you should ignore them, etc. Humanity, human being is the most important. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sent everyone as human beings, and we have to, even Allah says, respect people. What they do, what they choose to do, that's up to them. But the first point is respecting people. If you give respect, people will give you respect and they will learn. The more they learn about who we are, that element. And the other bit of it is, just like Talha said, history about Islam. You have to learn about everything. You can't be embarrassed about certain topics. Unless you learn, you won't be able to have that debate, have those conversations with people.
Jazakumullah khairan, Darul bhai. Any of the other panelists wants to add?
I think it's a really important question because you'll see that many mosques, when you get your nikah done in a mosque, you then go to civil office and register it again. And yet you don't need to. Mosque can register and become a recognized place where the nikah you do could be recognized as a marriage. The reason most mosques opted to do, some of our famous mosques are registered, but they won't offer that to you, is because there is a fear that if they open up to it, they might have to solemnize marriage that Islam doesn't approve. And yet, Equality Act does provide exemption for faith communities. So a mosque, a church, or other faith institutions aren't obliged to solemnize a same-sex marriage, for example. But the question is this: is there a risk that that element of the law could also be changed? Yes. But this is where I think we need to become much more proactive, build alliances, and make sure that this right is protected and it doesn't get eroded. The last point I'd say on this is that we do have a problem within our community. Whenever there is a difficult topic, whether it's women's participation, whether it's LGBT issues, whether it's some other form, lone parents, for example, a huge issue in our community. Family breakdown, huge issues. But we don't feel very confident in addressing those issues. And anybody who are too vocal about them are seen as problems, troublemakers. So yes, we do need to open up a lot more and be more confident in discussing some of the key challenges that we face.
Jazakumullah khairan. So Shabir bhai, we'll move to the next question, inshallah. As I can say, our Sheikh wanted to ask a question. Sheikh, please go ahead.
Not actually asking any question, but just adding one or two points with regards to Joshin's question. Not necessarily answering his question. And before I mention that, what I'm doing actually is that open discussion. That the panelists are also saying whatever they like, in a negative way, in a positive way. Questioners are also asking different questions. Even the host is also asking questions, and then he's being asked questions again. So the good thing is, everyone is taking it positively, and I think that positive, healthy environment discussion will navigate us to a better open discussion and addressing some of the challenges, not just through giving talks, but through collective efforts. So jazakallah to everyone for actually being part of that open environment, and it's good to ask difficult questions as well, so that people can also listen to different perspectives. Going back to the question, I think the 2 points that I want to add here is that possibly there's a difference between foreign policy and domestic policy, if you look at, let's say, UK or Western countries, which is completely not a difference. So again, although we are kind of, some of us may value some of the good things that we find in this society, but at the same time, we shouldn't be gullible and take everything as gospel. So there is a big difference between foreign policies and domestic policies. And secondly, also, I think from a religious perspective, we could argue, are those British values or universal values and so forth, but there is a fundamental difference between the universal values or British values and Islamic values. And that fundamental difference, even Barista Taha also touched on that, that fundamental difference is the source of those values. The source which defines the values. And there is a fundamental difference. That when we talk about Islamic values, the source is divine guidance, which defines the value. Whereas universal values and British values, which are also, a lot of things are close to that, may not be always 100% known. So this is where, again, we also need to be mindful, which I'm sure we are all, and especially our youngsters, that we need to appreciate and value the universal values and the British values, because this is more close to let's say, Islamic values than a lot of applications in our Muslim countries. But at the same time, we also need to know that our source defines our values, and our source is divine, and this is where we differ with let's say, the universal values or the British values.
Jazakumullah khairan, Sheikh Fahimul Anam. Obviously, you have articulated it quite well, mentioning about collectivity. We can see there are a lot of different opinions, whether something is part of the universal value or whether something is part of the modern value. So what I will do, I will actually come out of, the debate to make it easy for our panelists, inshallah, even though the question may not be very easy. So holding leadership into account is an Islamic value, and it is also a British value as well. We can see at the time of Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, when one of the companions thought something was not right, he did stand up and ask a question. Now those of you who do follow news, you can see Rishi Sunak has been fined recently for this car seat issue, and he has been fined, and a lot of questions are being asked, and this is a British value as well as Islamic value. So the question I have for the panels: what advice would the panel give about how we can evaluate the actions of our leadership, the public leadership, and how can we support them, but in the same time, we can also hold them into account? So I'll start with Barrister Talha, inshallah.
Right, okay, so it is a loaded question, but I think one worth engaging with. I want to begin with what Fahim said. I think as Muslims, one of the things the most important thing to remember is that everything we do, it must be to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is really, really important. So when we hold our leadership to account, it is not to advance our own personal interest or driven by a sense of seeking revenge or vindictiveness. So that is really important. The second thing we need to bear in mind is that if you feel that something is wrong or something is not quite right, then you have a duty to articulate your position, but in a way that is respectful, that is fair, that is measured and proportionate. We do have difficulty for cultural reasons to rise up to questions when people ask us difficult questions. But again, I think with time we will get there. But ultimately, we should always seek Allah's help. We should always ask Him for forgiveness, for guidance, for strength, for blessings. I'm not sure I can add anything else usefully.
Jazakallah khairan. I think very important for every single Muslims, because if we want to take mosque or organizations or Muslims to the next level, then we need to open up that opportunity for accountability. Because if we challenge us, because you may think, because we have to respect, as Bashir Talha mentioned, that even though it may be seen apparently not right, but what we were raising, like raising awareness, whether they have followed the own process, whether it was fair, whether it was not good for the community. So that is like, it's an essential aspect for everyone. And I think personally, an organization, mosque, they need to offer it. It is for improvement. And we see Muslims sometimes, even though we have policies, we may not apply it. But even if you see like House of Commons, even the local authorities, councillors, they always publish their expense. Even though you may hate it, some of them spend 800,000 millions in their expense claim, but system is in place. But now, if we have our own organization, if we see like we are spending too much on unnecessary things, then there should be a policy. It's not because to catch somebody, it is to see and improve it. And I think for every mosque, every organization in this country or even any other country, if we want to see Muslims to go to the next level in terms of leadership, in terms of contribution, then our akhlaq needs to grow. So that we need to do it in the best way. Unless someone is scrutinized, unless someone offer themselves accountable to public, then we cannot change it. And again, it is as mentioned again, it is an Islamic values, it is British values, and only it is good because you will be challenged if you do bad things. Thank you. Jazakumullah.
There was a research done. So when you go to the toilet, a lot of people don't wash their hands. So when they put CCTV in there, more people started to wash their hands. So you get the gist. Scrutiny when someone is watching, and if you think about it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching without a CCTV. But anyway, in general sense, but I think they've answered textbooks answers. But what I would say, you can complain, you can go on about life, but are you prepared to be that leader? Are you prepared, like 4 of us here, you're probably thinking, what are they answering these questions? But are you prepared to come sit here and answer the question? That's the question. So that's the ambition that we have to have. We can complain about stuff, we can moan about stuff, but whoever's running these organizations, they will only run with their own individual experience, lived experience, and what they know. They can't do anything extra unless you're prepared to come on the team and help and assist. Last thing, because I like taking over with the presenter, one bit for young people. You have to have ambition, and Sheikh Ashik talked about technology. You know Facebook, how many years it took Facebook to be developed? Do you know how many years? 3.5 years. Yeah? Do you know WhatsApp, how long it took WhatsApp to be developed? 18 months. And the next bit I will get wrong, but there's an IT expert at the back. He'll get it right. Angry Birds. Do you know how long it took to develop Angry Birds? 15 hours or something like that. Is that right? Just say yes. But anyway, I'm not sure, but something like that. So 3.5 years, 18 months, and then Angry Birds, 15 hours or something, or 15 days. I think it was 15 days, something along those lines. We've talked about Islam today, how to promote Islam, how to get the better of Islam. You should be coming up with a great idea of how to develop an app. Go on Google, find out how you make an app, and just do it. One other advice, there's something called MOOC. Has anyone heard of MOOC? Massive Open Online Courses. Who's heard of that? No one, unless at that geek at the back. But Massive Open Online Courses are free online courses that you can go on the internet and do. Free. From MIT, from Harvard, from the top universities. You woke up now? Yeah, definitely. And the website is edx.com. Yeah, edx.com. He's even standing. I think he wants to do the course. So introduction to computing, introduction to Islam, any subject. So even youngsters, you should do this. SubhanAllah, if you do a course, then when you do GCSEs, you'll be ahead of the crowd. When you do your A-levels, you'll be ahead of the crowd. 6 weeks, 8 weeks online courses. When you go on that website, you will see 400, 500,000 people enrolled on these courses. Free. And if you want a certificate, then you go to your father or a mother and they pay $30 or $40 and then they get it for you. But you don't need the certificate. You need the knowledge. There you go. You can have the mic now. I'm going.
One of the things I've learned over the years being a host is you can never control the speakers or the panelists. Today, I really intended to, have it finished by 9:30. But anyway, on a serious note, I think the discussion was quite good. It was collective discussions and it was interactive as well. So we will not take any further questions. What we will do, we will ask our panelists to do their concluding remarks, but let me actually put the question so you can give your concluding remarks on them. You are sitting in Darul Ummah, which is the house of the community. And as you know, we have in total, we have 4 house of communities in London at the moment. So I would like you to take 30 seconds each, inshallah, and to say how we can, so not just by name, how can we make it a house of community in reality, inshallah. Start with General, inshallah. So we come this way.
Just come and join me, Darul Ummah, Gosbrook, first Sunday of the month, 12 o'clock, litter picking in the community. A true basis of what Muslims, as Muslims, we should do for our local community. That's it, simple task. And put your shoes on the rack.
Jazakallahu khairan. I would say one thing is that to just open up your home and speak to your other neighbors and bring them into to your mosque and introduce them. Jazakallahu khairan.
Shapirba is my neighbor. He does it very well.
I think the main point I would emphasize is that we must get involved and be positive. If we remain positive and relentlessly seek change, inshallah, we will turn these places into truly a place of community. And the last thing I will say is this: if we say house of community, it must respond to the needs of the community. Whatever keeps people in the community awake at night must be the issues that we prioritize and work on. Then, inshallah, they will become truly house of the communities.
Thank you. Thank you to all our panelists and the audience for being patient with us. A lot of things have come out from our experts, and we have learned a lot. Once again, thank you everyone for coming in. So we'll go for break now. We'll have dinner break. And then after the dinner, we'll have Sheikh Abdul Rahman Madani giving us a short nasiha before we do some qiyam, inshallah. And last but not least, as Zainul Bhai did ask, or he did say, he wanted to see more people from there to here answering the questions. So we want to see more leaders. So inshallah, when we do our next session, we want to see some of you coming and sitting here and answering questions. That will make my life easier. At least you will be easier to deal with than my panelists. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you.
আরেকটা খারাপ হোক